In a reimagined world, colossal woolly mammoths, 1,000 times larger than humans, suddenly emerged from the icy depths of forgotten glaciers. Their massive tusks and towering bodies reshaped Earth's landscapes as they roamed across continents, devastating everything in their path. Humans, taken aback by these behemoths, initially tried to understand their motives, but their actions quickly turned destructive. The giant mammoths trumpeted thunderously, causing shockwaves that shattered buildings and toppled entire cities. Civilizations crumbled under the weight of their destruction, with millions losing their homes and livelihoods. The death toll skyrocketed, with estimates reaching over 50 million lives lost in the first year alone. Governments worldwide declared states of emergency, mobilizing armies and defenses to combat the monstrous invasion. However, traditional weaponry proved futile against such gigantic foes, unable to penetrate their thick hides or stop their relentless march. Scientists scrambled to devise new strategies, combining technology, biology, and environmental manipulation to thwart the mammoths. One innovative plan involved releasing genetically modified predators, specifically designed to weaken the mammoths' defenses. Despite desperate efforts, the mammoths adapted quickly, their intelligence and size giving them a tactical advantage over human armies. Major cities like New York, London, and Tokyo were reduced to rubble, symbols of human hubris and vulnerability. The damage to infrastructure was catastrophic, with thousands of miles of roads, bridges, and power grids destroyed. The global economy plunged into chaos, with markets crashing and international trade grinding to a halt. As years passed, some regions managed to evacuate and retreat into fortified zones, creating a new world order. Humans faced a choice: adapt and evolve, or face extinction in the shadow of these ancient giants. Meanwhile, the mammoths continued their rampage, seemingly unstoppable, trampling through forests, cities, and coastlines. In small pockets of resistance, humans developed underground bunkers, building new communities hidden from the giant beasts. The human death count continued to rise, reaching over 100 million as the conflict persisted into the third year. Civilizations collapsed in the Americas, Europe, and Asia, replaced by nomadic tribes and survival groups. A sense of despair spread, but amid the chaos, sparks of ingenuity and resilience flickered among the survivors. Some scientists believed that if humanity could harness ancient technology or create new weapons, there might still be hope. Others argued that negotiation or even coexistence with the mammoths could be possible in a drastically changed world. Attempts at diplomacy failed, as the gigantic creatures showed no signs of understanding human language or intentions. The natural balance of the Earth was utterly disrupted, with ecosystems annihilated and new ones forming in the mammoths' wake. Yet, amidst the destruction, stories of brave individuals and small communities emerging from the ruins inspired hope. In the largest human cities, reduced to ruins, small bands fought to rebuild civilization from the ashes. The war against the giant mammoths was brutal and relentless, stirring debates about humanity's hubris and resilience. Some thinkers reflected on whether this was a punishment or a natural cycle of Earth reclaiming itself. As years turned into decades, humans learned to adapt to their new world, focusing on survival and innovation. Advanced technologies like AI and robotic defenses began to play a role in repelling the remaining mammoth patrols. Meanwhile, the giant mammals continued their reign, indifferent to human efforts and fears. Despite overwhelming odds, pockets of scientists and warriors persisted, hoping for a breakthrough. Mutual destruction threatened to wipe out both humans and mammoths entirely, a stark reminder of nature's power. In this bleak new era, survival depended not on strength alone, but on ingenuity, cooperation, and understanding. Eventually, some parts of the Earth saw a fragile semblance of peace, with ecosystems slowly recovering amid ruins. In these moments of respite, humans wondered if one day they could coexist with these ancient giants, or if they would be remnants of a bygone era. The battle between the giant woolly mammoths and humans was one of the most devastating conflicts in history, reshaping the planet forever. As humanity faced the aftermath, they learned valuable lessons about respecting nature's might and the importance of sustainability. The war's toll was immense: over 50 million deaths, widespread destruction, and the displacement of countless communities. But from the ashes rose a new hope. a world where humans and nature might find a way to coexist once again, if only carefully. In a reimagined world, gigantic stegosauruses, 1,000 times the size of humans, unexpectedly emerged from the depths of prehistoric Earth. Their colossal forms towered over cities, with spikes the size of skyscrapers and tails like moving mountains. Initially, humanity believed these creatures were mere legends or remnants of a forgotten era. But as they advanced, it became clear they were a terrifying new threat. The first attack occurred in New York City, where a giant stegosaurus wrecked skyscrapers and crushed vehicles beneath its massive feet. The damage was catastrophic, with entire districts reduced to rubble in hours. Thousands of civilians fled in terror, seeking refuge from the relentless onslaught. The death toll rapidly climbed into the hundreds of thousands as chaos ensued across the globe. Military attempts to defend Earth proved almost futile against such titanic predators. Fighter jets were swatted out of the sky like insects, and tanks crumbled beneath the weight of the enormous beasts. Despite the destruction, humanity rallied to develop new weapons and strategies. Scientists worked tirelessly to understand the biology of these creatures, hoping to find a weakness. Global governments coordinated evacuation efforts, but many areas were simply overwhelmed. The war extended across continents, leaving urban landscapes in ruins and civilizations fractured. Some hoped the creatures had a limited lifespan or a natural weakness they could exploit. Others feared that if they were not stopped, Earth would become uninhabitable. In response, military commanders devised specialized weapons, including giant-caliber projectiles and energy beams. These weapons struck the giants, causing injuries and some retreats, but never a decisive defeat. In one bleak battle, a giant stegosaurus knocked down the Eiffel Tower, reshaping Paris forever. The global death count soared into the millions, as entire populations were wiped out or displaced. Civilizations crumbled, with some governments falling into chaos or collapsing entirely. As months turned into years, humanity adapted to the new reality, creating underground cities and fortified enclaves. Despite these efforts, the giant monsters continued their march of destruction. The giants seemed to possess a primal intelligence, avoiding traps and learning from human tactics. Some scientists speculated that these creatures might be descendants of a secret experiment gone wrong or an ancient prehistoric menace awakened. Others wondered if they were simply a natural evolution, adapting to Earth's changing climate and environment. Throughout the war, countless lives were lost, and the world was scarred in ways it might never fully recover from. Yet amidst devastation, tales of resilience and heroism emerged. A few dedicated groups formed underground resistance movements, attempting daring strikes against the giants. One such group succeeded in deploying a massive electromagnetic pulse that temporarily grounded some of them. But the giants soon regained their footing, resuming their destructive rampage. As the battle persisted, humanity grappled with the terrifying reality of fighting giants that seemed nearly invincible. The question remained, who would ultimately win in this war between humanity and these colossal monsters? Many believed that humans, with their ingenuity and adaptability, would eventually prevail by exploiting weaknesses we had yet to discover. Others doubted that mankind could sustain the continuous losses and devastation forever. In the end, the war would hinge on whether humans could unite fully and harness the remaining technological advances. The damage to Earth's civilizations had been immense, but hope persisted among the survivors. Despite the staggering death toll and destruction, some believed that a way to end the conflict might still exist, and so the world watched and fought, hoping that the giants' reign of terror would finally come to an end. In this reimagined Earth, survival depended on resilience, innovation, and a sliver of hope amidst the ruins. In a world where the unimaginable became reality, giant ortolans, 1,000 times the size of humans, suddenly emerged from the depths of the Earth. Their massive bodies blocked the sun, casting shadows over entire cities as they stalked the land with terrifying silence. News of the invasion spread like wildfire across social media, becoming an instant viral sensation. People worldwide watched in horror as these behemoth birds smashed through skyscrapers and pulverized historic landmarks with ease. The first wave of attacks resulted in over 5 million deaths within the first week alone. Civilizations crumbled under the weight of destruction, with airports, ports, and entire neighborhoods wiped out overnight. Governments scrambled to respond, deploying military forces equipped with nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. Yet, nothing seemed to halt the colossal ortolan's advance. They were simply too massive and resilient. Military casualties skyrocketed, with an estimated 300,000 soldiers lost in the initial confrontation. The damage to infrastructure was catastrophic, leaving millions homeless and without access to clean water or electricity. Cities reduced to ruins, with entire regions rendered uninhabitable due to radiation and toxic debris. Scientists theorized that the giant ortolans possessed an almost impenetrable armor, making conventional weapons futile. Amid the chaos, humanity's innovations kicked into overdrive, attempting to develop new tactics to fight or contain the monsters. Some proposed using giant drones and automated tanks, but logistics and scale remained insurmountable challenges. The viral videos showcased civilians desperately fleeing as the gigantesque birds tore through urban jungles. In many cities, people barricaded themselves indoors, praying for salvation and wondering if anyone would survive. The death toll rose exponentially, surpassing 15 million worldwide within the first 2 months. Economies plummeted, stock markets crashed, and global supply chains collapsed under the weight of the destruction. Despite the devastation, humankind refused to surrender, rallying around hope and resilience. A secret coalition of scientists and military strategists was formed to find a way to stop the giant ortolans. They experimented with advanced weaponry, biological agents, and even attempted to communicate with the creatures. Some believed that the ortolans might be intelligent, possibly defending their territory from human encroachment long ago. Meanwhile, pockets of survivors emerged in underground bunkers and hidden sanctuaries, fighting for each day. These groups shared stories of loss, bravery, and unbreakable human spirit, inspiring others to keep going. Despite the relentless destruction, a glimmer of hope appeared when a breakthrough in biological warfare seemed possible. Scientists developed a targeted virus designed to weaken the ortolans' gigantic immune systems. The plan was risky, but with millions dead and cities in ruin, humanity had little choice but to try. After tense weeks of testing and deployment, the virus was released into the atmosphere, targeting the monsters. For a few days it seemed the giants were unaffected, continuing their rampage without pause. But then cracks appeared literally on their armored hides as the virus took effect. The colossal ortolans staggered, confused by the sudden weakness, and finally began to fall. The final battle was fierce and destructive, lasting several weeks until the last of the monsters toppled. By then, over 50 million lives had been lost worldwide, and countless civilizations lay in ruins. The victory came at a staggering cost, but humanity learned profound lessons about resilience and unity. In the aftermath, rebuilding efforts began, focusing on creating defenses against future threats. Scientists warned that such monsters could return, so new protocols and technological safeguards were implemented. Though battered and scarred, Earth held on to hope that it would someday recover from the ancient avian nightmare. In a reimagined world where giant Tasmanian tigers, scaled up 1,000 times the size of humans, roamed the Earth, chaos unfolded like never before. These colossal predators, with razor-sharp claws and thunderous roars, began attacking cities, forests, and everything in their path. The initial shockwave of destruction was so immense that entire civilizations crumbled within days. Reports flooded in from around the globe, revealing that over 10 million people had lost their lives in the first month alone. Cities were reduced to rubble, and vast populations fled in terror, seeking refuge in the most remote corners of the planet. Military forces around the world scrambled to respond, but their conventional weapons proved utterly ineffective against such gargantuan beasts. Aircraft were swatted from the sky like insects, and tanks were shattered by their massive claws. Scientists warned that these giant Tasmanian tigers could not be reasoned with or tamed. They were pure predators with an insatiable hunger. In one catastrophic event, a colossal tiger tore through the Hoover Dam, unleashing floods that devastated entire states. The damage was so widespread that some countries declared states of emergency and borders were closed indefinitely. As months passed, the human civilization struggled to adapt to this new brutal world order. Attempting to fight fire with fire, some armies deployed the largest cannons and missile systems, but to no avail. The giants simply shrugged off the explosions, their thick hides rendering artillery useless. Scientists speculated that these creatures were possibly a result of genetic experiments gone wrong or an ancient evolutionary anomaly reawakened. Meanwhile, the environmental impact was staggering. Forests and plains were decimated, and animal populations plummeted. The Earth's ecosystem was spiraling into chaos, with many species on the brink of extinction. People clung to hope, trying to develop new technologies to defend against the predators. But every attempt to build safe zones was met with destruction, as the giants displayed brutal intelligence and adaptability. Over time, humanity was forced to evolve quickly, some by hiding in underground bunkers, others by forming alliances to fight back. A few inventive groups harnessed giant nets and trap mechanisms, attempting to trap the monsters, yet the size and strength of these titanic creatures meant that most traps either failed or were destroyed instantly. Despite the devastation, a few brave warriors and scientists believed that the giants could be eradicated or at least subdued. Using drones and new bioengineered weapons, they launched daring attacks aimed at the beasts' weak spots. One such mission led to the capture of a giant tiger's eye, believed to hold the key to understanding their vulnerabilities. However, each victory was bittersweet, as new giants emerged from the remnants of the old ones. The death toll climbed sharply, with estimates exceeding 25 million lives lost worldwide within the first 2 years. Civilizations as they knew them were nearly wiped out, replaced by scattered survivor enclaves fighting for survival. Despite the overwhelming odds, some rebel groups managed small victories, slowing the advance of the giants. News outlets around the world broadcasted viral footage of giant claws tearing through skyscrapers and humans fleeing in panic. The world had become a battleground, with humanity on the brink of extinction and nature reclaiming its territory. Yet, amidst the chaos, stories of heroism and resilience emerged, inspiring hope and resistance. Scientists theorized that if humans could develop a way to neurostimulate or control these giants, peace might be possible. But time was running out, and the giants kept growing bolder, their hunger unrelenting. Out of despair, some believed that the only way to save what was left of Earth was to evacuate to space stations or lunar colonies. The United Nations organized a desperate global evacuation plan, but the damage was already irreversible. In this shattered world, the question remained, who would ultimately win the war between humanity and these giant Tasmanian tigers? It was a battle of resilience versus raw destructive power, and as of today, the Earth is scarred but still fighting. Humanity's survival depended on innovation, unity, and perhaps the unlikely hope that these monsters could someday be tamed or understood.